After the bitter victory at the blinding horizon, where Lyra sacrificed herself to activate the Infinity Key and seal away the corrosive demon, Jax piloted the Night Falcon back into Federation space. The ship, now scarred from fierce battles, became a living symbol of a tragic journey. The return voyage was one of profound solitude for Jax. The cockpit was empty. No longer did Lyra's voice guide him, nor Kalen's teasing, nor Raya's calm presence. Only the steady hum of the engines and haunting memories remained. Jax was no longer the introverted engineer he once was. He had transformed, becoming a seasoned warrior, burdened by loss and terrible secrets. The pain of those who had fallen, Kalen, Aris, Raya, and now Lyra, haunted him every night, every dream. He often perceived Lyra in his mind, not as a clear voice, but as a feeling, a presence of knowledge and will from the eternal core, reminding him of his unfinished mission. He knew Lyra was still there, a part of the Infinity Key, the last link to what remained of the precursors. His return to the Federation did not bring the peace he desired. Instead, it opened a new chapter of arduous challenges. Upon entering Federation airspace, the Night Falcon was intercepted by a large patrol fleet. They didn't recognize the once missing ship, and Jax had to use Aris's emergency codes to confirm his identity. After a tense verification process, he was permitted to land at a secret military base, completely isolated from the outside. His first meeting was with the Federation Council. This was no heroic welcome. Instead, it was a harsh interrogation, a confrontation with suspicious gazes and implicit accusations. The council members, with their rigid faces and calculating eyes, questioned him about what had transpired, about the corrosive demon, about the disappearance of Aris and his team. They were skeptical of his story, especially when Jax recounted the Infinity Key and Lyra's sacrifice. They dismissed these as wild tales, hallucinations of a traumatized individual, or even pretexts to cover up a larger conspiracy. Engineer Jax, do you expect us to believe these fantastical stories? An AI sacrificing itself to control a mythical key sounds more like an attempt to seize power than salvation. An elderly council member, with sharp eyes, remarked sarcastically. Jax felt anger flare within him. He had witnessed the most horrific things, lost his dearest friends, and now he was being treated like a lunatic. He tried to remain calm, presenting the evidence Lyra had helped him gather, Aris's encrypted fragments. Data on the corrosive demons spread, and even audio recordings from the Shadow Spires. But the council seemed uninterested. They appeared to have already reached their conclusions and only wanted to hear what they wanted to hear. Crucially, the Twilight Council, the secret branch of the Federation Council that Jax had learned about through Lyra's discoveries, had dispatched their most sophisticated agents to discreetly monitor and interrogate Jax. They didn't appear openly but quietly gathered information, trying to ascertain how much Jax knew about their plans. They feared Jax would expose the truth about their collusion with the Shadow Empire and even the corrosive demon. Under the guise of scientists and security officers, they attempted to extract information from Jax, seeking to seize the knowledge he possessed about the precursors and the Infinity Key. Among them was Agent Seraph, a young woman with a cold demeanor and sharp eyes, who was always present during Jax's interrogations. She didn't speak much but meticulously observed Jax, as if trying to read his thoughts. Jax felt a cold current run down his spine whenever her gaze met his. The Federation Council's skepticism and the Twilight Council's surveillance intensified. Jax quickly realized he was being held captive, completely isolated. His Night Falcon was impounded for technical inspection, and his communication devices were closely monitored. He couldn't contact anyone outside, and his every word was recorded. The Twilight Council operated covertly, using its influence to spread misinformation about Jax. They portrayed him as a traitor, a madman who had sabotaged important missions, or even someone who had collaborated with the Shadow Empire. Their goal was to discredit Jax, ensuring no one would believe what he said, and then to eliminate him, legally. They wanted to seize the secrets of the precursors and the Infinity Key that Jax carried, especially his ability to connect with the Eternal Core through Lyra's consciousness. One night, as Jax slept deeply, a group of Twilight Council agents infiltrated his room. They attempted to use a special device to extract information directly from his mind, tapping into his memories of the Infinity Key and the Eternal Core. "Your sleep will grant us the truth, Engineer Jax," a cold voice whispered in the darkness, as Jax felt an electric current coursing through his body. However, Lyra, now part of the Eternal Core, intervened remotely, though unable to communicate directly. Her presence created a psychic firewall in Jax's mind, disrupting the agent's device. Jax awoke with a severe headache and realized the intruders. With the combat instincts honed through many battles, he fiercely resisted, forcing them to retreat. This incident confirmed Jax's suspicions. The Twilight Council not only wanted to control him, but they also wanted to exploit him. He knew he couldn't stay in the Federation any longer. He had to escape and warn the entire galaxy about the true threat from both the Corrosive Demon and the Twilight Council. Jax began planning his escape. He had to use all his experience, his understanding of Federation security systems, his technical skills to bypass electronic locks, and his ability to control the Night Falcon even while it was impounded. He also had to find a way to evade Agent Seraph's close surveillance, as she seemed to be everywhere. During his confinement, Jax had secretly accessed old Federation communication devices. He knew the Twilight Council had replaced many modern devices with controlled systems. He began tinkering with the old equipment, using the knowledge of ancient precursor technology that Lyra had imparted to him. He found an old emergency communication channel, used during the pre-Federation War era, a channel the Twilight Council had overlooked, deeming it obsolete. As Jax desperately sought a way to escape the Federation, an unexpected signal reached him through the old emergency channel he had activated. It was a group of former Federation members who had left the organization due to disagreements with the Twilight Council's shadowy policies and manipulation. They were scientists, veterans, skilled pilots, individuals who still believed in the Federation's original ideals and had secretly gathered, forming the opposition. The leader of this group was a former Federation general named General Valerius, an honest and upright man who had once been Kalen's superior. He had noticed the negative changes within the Federation and had secretly investigated the Twilight Council. When Malakor rose and the corrosive demon began to spread unusually, Valerius became even more convinced that something was amiss. He contacted Jax after hearing rumors about the mad engineer who had survived the Shadow Spires. Initially, Valerius still had some doubts about Jax, due to the information the Twilight Council had spread, but Jax presented convincing evidence: audio recordings from the Shadow Spires, fragments of data on the corrosive demon's transformation, and even Lyra's whispers from the Eternal Core that only Jax could perceive. More importantly, Jax shared secrets about the Twilight Council, their collusion with the Shadow Empire and even with the corrosive demon to control it. This truth stunned Valerius. He realized that the threat came not only from outside but also from within the Federation itself. "We have been deceived for too long," Valerius said, his voice laced with bitterness. "Those traitors are trying to push us into the abyss." Valerius and the opposition offered to help Jax escape the Federation and provide him with a secret base. They agreed to cooperate to expose the Twilight Council and fight against both the corrosive demon and the Shadow Empire. This new alliance brought Jax a new ray of hope. He was no longer alone. He had people who believed in him, people willing to fight for truth and justice. Together, they planned Jax's daring escape from the Federation military base. This plan required perfect coordination, using diversions, creating system malfunctions, and even a small skirmish to draw attention. The Night Falcon was readied, its impounded systems secretly unlocked by Jax remotely, with assistance from the opposition's best programmers. Jax knew this escape would make him a public enemy of both the Federation and the Twilight Council. But he had no other choice. The escape from the Federation military base was a tense and dramatic confrontation. Jax, with remote support from the opposition, created a major system malfunction, causing cells and security systems to glitch. As Twilight Council agents and Federation soldiers were busy with the malfunction, Jax slipped out of his cell, using his stealth skills and knowledge of the base layout to avoid security cameras. He headed towards the hangar bay where the Night Falcon was impounded. When Jax arrived, he found Agent Seraph standing there, waiting for him. She had anticipated his actions. "I knew you would do this. Engineer Jax," Seraph said, her voice as cold as ice. "You cannot escape. You know too much, and you will not carry the Council's secrets with you." A hand-to-hand confrontation ensued between Jax and Seraph. Seraph was a highly trained combatant. Swift and precise, she used secret fighting techniques, attacking Jax with quick and powerful blows. Jax, fueled by anger and a desire for revenge for his lost friends, fought with all his might. He used his experience surviving the Shadow Spires, dodging and counter-attacking with decisive movements. Meanwhile, the opposition had begun their assault, creating significant chaos in other areas of the base to divert the Federation Army's attention. Gunfire and energy blasts echoed throughout the base. Jax finally overpowered Seraph, rendering her unconscious. He quickly boarded the Night Falcon, activated its systems, and broke the seal. As the ship took off, Federation warships detected it and began pursuit. A small space battle erupted in the planet's atmosphere. Jax used all his skills, from daring aerial maneuvers to exploiting weaknesses in the Federation's formation. He also had a secret advantage. He could feel Lyra's presence from the Eternal Core, and occasionally, Lyra could activate a small portion of energy from the Infinity Key to assist him, such as temporarily disrupting enemy ship systems or creating a small energy field to deflect projectiles. "Hold on, Jax. You can do it. We can do it." Lyra's voice echoed in his mind. No longer a clear voice but a feeling. A powerful encouragement. Finally, Jax successfully escaped the Federation's encirclement. He flew directly to the opposition's secret base, where Valerius awaited him. This incident shook the Twilight Council and the entire Federation. Jax, from a missing engineer, had now become a fugitive, a public enemy. At the secret base, Jax and Valerius, along with the members of the opposition, began to formulate their plan. Their plan was not only to fight the corrosive demon or the Shadow Empire but also to expose and dismantle the Twilight Council from within the Federation. This was a plan of revenge for the fallen, for the deception and betrayal the Twilight Council had caused. They knew this would be a long, arduous, and dangerous war, but they were ready to face it. Jax, with his newfound strength and spiritual guidance from Lyra, along with the support of the opposition, now became a symbol of resistance. He was the only one capable of seeing the whole picture, understanding the threat from all sides. He was the galaxy's last hope. At the opposition's secret base, hidden deep within a dense nebula where Federation scanners couldn't detect them, Jax began a new phase of the war. This base was a patchwork of old space stations, abandoned cargo depots, and repurposed starships, all connected by dark tunnels and intricate ventilation systems, creating a complex maze. It wasn't as grand as Federation bases, but it was brimming with the will to resist. General Valerius, with his extensive military experience and personal integrity, had assembled a core group of trusted individuals. They were seasoned pilots, brilliant engineers, wise scientists, and sharp intelligence experts, all individuals cast aside by the Federation or hunted by the Twilight Council. They didn't have the abundant resources of the Federation or the Shadow Empire, but they had loyalty, unwavering determination, and a common goal: to expose the truth and save the galaxy. Jax, with his mental connection to the Eternal Core through Lyra, became an invaluable asset to the Resistance. He could access a vast trove of precursor knowledge, from advanced spacecraft designs to ancient weapon technology, and even profound insights into the corrosive demon. He spent hours studying complex schematics, cryptic algorithms, and precursor records, trying to decipher the mysteries Lyra had left behind. Lyra, though no longer physically present, remained his silent teacher and guide. Ideas and solutions sometimes flashed into Jax's mind like lightning, and he knew it was Lyra, transmitting to him from deep within the Eternal Core. Under the guidance of Jax and Valerius, the opposition began the process of refitting and upgrading their ships. The Night Falcon, bearing the scars of battles, became the prototype for improvements. Jax used precursor knowledge to upgrade the Night Falcon's engines, dramatically increasing its speed and maneuverability. He also improved the shield systems, making them nearly impenetrable by conventional weapons. Furthermore, He integrated new energy weapons, inspired by precursor technology, into the Resistance's ships, giving them significant offensive power. Old laser cannons were replaced with high-efficiency plasma cannons, and outdated missiles were replaced with wide-area magnetic torpedoes. However, building an opposition force was not easy. They faced many challenges. First, the Shadow Empire, though weakened after Malakor's death, remained a constant threat at the galaxy's rim. They continued their raiding, pillaging, and occasional incursions into populated Federation areas, causing instability and forcing the Federation to disperse its forces. Second, and more importantly, the Twilight Council still held power within the Federation. They continuously spread misinformation about Jax and Valerius, labeling them as traitors, terrorists, or those seeking to overthrow order. These rumors caused division and confusion among the Federation populace, making it difficult to find more allies. Jax and Valerius knew they couldn't directly attack the Federation immediately. They had to operate in the shadows, undertaking intelligence missions, gathering more evidence of the Twilight Council's crimes, and seeking more people willing to stand up against the deception. To expose the Twilight Council, Jax and Valerius established a sophisticated spy network. They recruited talented individuals who were former Federation intelligence officers, discarded scientists, and even former Twilight Council members who had realized their mistakes. These agents were specially trained to operate in hostile environments, using stealth techniques and complex encryption guided by Lyra through Jax. These missions were incredibly dangerous. Many agents were captured, tortured, or killed while trying to access information. Jax and Valerius had to make difficult decisions, sometimes sacrificing a few individuals to protect the larger network. Every time an agent fell, Jax felt the burden of loss weigh heavier on his shoulders. He understood that this was a war where even silent heroes paid a heavy price. In a daring infiltration mission into a secret Twilight Council data archive on the Federation's capital planet, one of their agents successfully downloaded a large amount of deeply encrypted data. Although this agent had to sacrifice themselves to complete the mission, the data became an invaluable treasure. Jax and Lyra, through the Eternal Core, spent weeks, even months, deciphering it. Lyra, with her superior analytical abilities and connection to precursor knowledge, was the only one who could break through these complex layers of encryption. As the data was deciphered, horrifying discoveries emerged, far exceeding Jax's and Valerius's expectations. Secret Pact. The Twilight Council had not only colluded with the Shadow Empire but had also signed a secret treaty with them. This treaty allowed the Shadow Empire to continue its raiding and terrorist activities at the galaxy's rim in exchange for not attacking the core Federation areas. In return, the Twilight Council would provide the Shadow Empire with resources and information about resource-rich planets. And most importantly, they would supply victims of the corrosive demon for the Empire to research. This was a disgusting agreement, a blatant betrayal of the very citizens they swore to protect. Horrific experiments. The Twilight Council had continued the Precursor's experiments on the corrosive demon. They were not only trying to control it but also seeking to transform it into a new type of weapon, an ultimate tool of destruction they could command. They had captured and transformed living beings, even humans, into new, stronger, and more controllable transformed beings. The data also revealed that the Twilight Council had used a large amount of Federation resources to build secret laboratories where they conducted unethical experiments, crossing all moral boundaries. Forced symbiosis. The most horrifying discovery was a secret Twilight Council project called Project Symbiosis. They not only wanted to control the corrosive demon but also wanted to fully merge with it, similar to what Malakor had done, but on a larger, controlled scale. They believed that by combining their intellect with the corrosive demon's assimilation power, they could create a superior race that would dominate the galaxy. They had begun experimenting with this forced symbiosis process on several high-ranking council members, and initial results showed them gradually transforming into terrifying hybrid beings, yet with formidable intellect and power. As Valerius reviewed this evidence, he could barely believe his eyes. This is the greatest betrayal in Federation history. We cannot let them do this. We must stop them, no matter the cost. His voice trembled with furious, extreme indignation. Jax felt a chill run down his spine. The Twilight Council wasn't just a political enemy, they were lunatics threatening the survival of all life. He knew this war wouldn't simply be about fighting monsters, but about fighting the darkness within the human soul. With undeniable evidence in hand, Jax and Valerius knew it was time to act. Their plan was a daring raid on the Federation capital, where the Twilight Council's headquarters were located. The objective was not only to publicize the evidence but also to neutralize the Twilight Council's leaders, halt their Project Symbiosis, and if possible, rescue high-ranking Federation members they had imprisoned and manipulated. Preparations for this raid were meticulously thorough. Pilots were trained in complex urban flying maneuvers, and special forces teams practiced infiltration and close-quarters combat. Jax spent time instructing the opposition's engineers on how to use energy from the Infinity Key through a special converter he had developed. Though they couldn't use it directly like him, they could use it to temporarily boost their ship's weapon or shield power. Jax, I know this is a dangerous mission, General Valerius said, looking at the strategic map on the main screen. We could lose everything, but we have no other choice. This galaxy deserves to know the truth. We'll do it, General, Jax replied, his gaze unwavering, looking at Valerius. For Kalen, for Raya, for Aris, and for Lyra. Valerius nodded, placing a hand on Jax's shoulder. Be careful, my boy. The Twilight Council is not to be trifled with, especially those who have been transformed. Jax nodded. He knew this battle would be merciless. He felt Lyra's presence in his mind, like a lighthouse in the darkness, guiding him every step of the way. This was the time for revenge, to expose the truth, and to bring justice to those who had fallen. The raid on the Federation capital began. Phase 1 proceeded as planned. The opposition's diversionary fleet successfully drew the attention of the Federation military. The Night Falcon, skillfully piloted by Jax, led a small group of stealth attack ships, using the chaos to slip through the capital's space defenses. Upon successfully infiltrating urban airspace, Jax's team faced a complex defense network of automated energy turrets, patrol ships, and drone squadrons controlled by the Twilight Council. Jax utilized knowledge of old Federation schematics, transmitted to him by Lyra, combined with vulnerabilities in the security system that the Twilight Council had created to allow the Shadow Empire to enter and exit secretly. He led his team through narrow spatial alleys and densely populated residential areas, avoiding main patrol routes. As they approached the Twilight Council's main headquarters, a colossal skyscraper towering among other buildings, Jax and his strike team encountered an unexpected defensive force. It wasn't regular Federation military, but a special operations unit of the Twilight Council, equipped with advanced weapons and bearing the marks of the new transformed beings the Council had created. They were swift, brutal, and seemed no longer fully human. Amidst the battle, Agent Seraph reappeared, this time not alone. She led the special operations team, her eyes now colder, almost emotionless, and a strange energy pulsed around her body. Jax realized she had been upgraded by the Twilight Council, perhaps having undergone part of the Symbiosis project, though not to the extent of complete deformation like Malakor. She was much faster and stronger. You can't escape me, Jax, Seraph said, her voice distorted, mixed with electronic whispers, like a controlled voice. The Council will not allow anyone to ruin our great plan. A fierce battle erupted in the corridors of the Twilight Council headquarters. Jax's team, though outnumbered, faced a well-trained and specially abled opponent. Seraph attacked Jax relentlessly, using superior physical strength and deadly close-quarters combat skills. Jax, with his battle experience and surging anger, fought fiercely. He felt the energy from the Infinity Key flowing within him, helping him react faster and deliver more powerful blows. He knew he had to defeat Seraph to proceed further. Meanwhile, Valerius, from the secret base, had initiated Phase 3 of the plan. He publicly broadcast all the evidence they had gathered. Initially, the information channels were blocked by the Twilight Council, but with the intervention of the opposition's engineers and the vulnerabilities Lyra had pointed out, the message began to spread. The Federation populace started receiving the information, and a wave of shock spread throughout the galaxy. The Federation military began to question their superiors' orders. Some units started resisting Twilight Council agents, causing widespread chaos. Jax eventually defeated Seraph, but it was not an easy victory. She had left him with deep wounds, both physical and mental. He knew Seraph had been brainwashed, turned into a puppet of the Twilight Council. He didn't want to kill her, but he knew he had to stop her. He restrained her and pressed onward. After overcoming Agent Seraph and the outer defenses, Jax and the strike team delved deeper into the dark and gloomy corridors of the Twilight Council headquarters. The air grew heavy, carrying the scent of metal and an indescribable foul odor, a sickly stench of decay and corruption. The walls, initially designed with the opulent appearance of the Federation, now revealed cracks and strange stains, as if the building itself was being corroded from within. Flickering artificial lights cast grotesque shadows, further intensifying the eerie atmosphere. Further in, they stumbled upon secret laboratories. The sight within was more horrifying than any nightmare Jax had ever imagined. The laboratories were equipped with advanced technology but were used for vile purposes. Electromagnetic cages were filled with writhing creatures, kidnapped victims from distant planets, or even deceived Federation members, all slowly being transformed by the corrosive demon. Human and other species' bodies were grotesquely deformed, slimy masses of tentacles and tumors, groaning in pain and hopelessness. Twilight Council scientists, in their abominably stained white coats, moved among these cages, recording data with cold, cruel expressions, completely devoid of conscience. They had crossed all ethical boundaries, believing these experiments were the only path to superior evolution. Jax felt a surge of nausea. He had seen many horrible things, but this sight was more brutal than any battle. Anger welled up within him, mixed with pain for the innocent beings being tormented. What have they done to these people? Jax roared, his voice hoarse with indignation. As Jax's team advanced further, a strange sound began to reverberate. A low, powerful growl, like millions of souls screaming in agony. This sound emanated from a larger laboratory, protected by thick steel doors. When the doors burst open, Jax and the strike team horrifyingly realized that this was where the symbiosis project was being conducted on the largest scale. Inside, a group of high-ranking Twilight Council members were gathered around a massive crystal structure, connected to a network of precursor technological devices. Brilliant green light from the crystal structure illuminated their distorting faces. They had begun the process of forced symbiosis with the corrosive demon. Their bodies were gradually transforming, flesh becoming viscous, internal organs deforming into grotesque structures, and their eyes glowing with the same red light as Malakor's. They were no longer entirely human, but terrifying hybrid beings, transformed demons carrying the intellect and power of the Twilight Council. The leader of the Twilight Council, an elderly man named Senator Valerius, not General Valerius, Jax's ally, had almost completely transformed. He was a colossal mass of flesh, with tentacles sprouting from his back and a mouth full of sharp fangs. But his eyes still held cunning and malice. He looked at Jax with contempt. "You have come, Jax. You have seen the future." Senator Valerius roared, his voice reverberating and distorted, mixed with the hissing of the corrosive demon. "We shall become gods. No more biological limits. No more death. You can become a part of us. A part of eternity." Jax felt an uncontrollable rage. He remembered the fallen, Lyra's last whispers. "You have betrayed everything. You are not gods. You are demons." Jax bellowed, drawing his upgraded laser pistol. A horrific battle erupted in the laboratory. The transformed Twilight Council members lunged at Jax and his strike team. They possessed extraordinary strength, regenerative abilities, and could project energy blasts from their deformed bodies. They fought maniacally, without hesitation or fear. Jax had to move constantly, returning fire with precise and decisive blows. He used his knowledge of the corrosive demon's weaknesses, which Lyra had transmitted to him, targeting weak points in their distorted bodies. Meanwhile, General Valerius, from the opposition's secret base, had completed the public broadcast of all evidence. The news spread through the Federation like wildfire. The populace was stunned, horrified, then enraged. The Federation military, upon learning the truth, began to split. Many units revolted, turning their weapons against Twilight Council agents and the transformed ones. A small civil war began to erupt within the Federation, causing widespread chaos. Jax directly confronted the transformed Senator Valerius. The Senator, with terrifying strength and colossal size, overwhelmed Jax with brutal attacks. He lashed out with tentacles, smashing everything around, and attempted to assimilate Jax. Jax had to constantly dodge, seeking an opening. You cannot win, Jax. We have surpassed you. You are just a weak human. Senator Valerius roared, his voice filled with arrogance. Jax, in a moment near death, recalled Lyra's whisper. Use the energy from the core, not just as a weapon, but as will, as light. He focused his entire will, feeling the connection to the eternal core and the energy of the infinity key flowing through his veins. He launched a powerful counterattack, not with weapons, but with a pure energy surge, a spiritual shockwave, directly from his will, amplified by the infinity key. This energy surge did not cause physical damage, but it weakened the corrosive demon's collective consciousness that was controlling the transformed Senator Valerius. He roared in pain, his body convulsing violently, and the red light in his eyes dimmed. As the transformed Senator Valerius writhed in agony, Jax's strike team seized the opportunity to destroy the massive crystal structure, the site of the Symbiosis Project. When the crystal shattered, a chaotic energy surge erupted, and the other transformed Twilight Council members also began to scream in pain. Their symbiosis process had been interrupted, and the corrosive demon within them began to react violently. No longer controlled, the transformed Senator Valerius let out one final roar. Then his deformed body began to collapse, shrinking and dissolving into a gruesome pile of fleshy sludge, losing all signs of life. The other Twilight Council members who had participated in the Symbiosis Project suffered the same fate, either becoming weakened or dying instantly. The remaining ones, those not fully transformed, now had no will to fight, only fear and horror. Jax had succeeded. The Twilight Council had been defeated, exposed to the entire Federation. The internal conflict within the Federation quickly ended as the military and populace realized the horrifying truth about those who had manipulated them. General Valerius, now considered a hero, quickly took control of the Federation, beginning the process of restoring order and transparency. Part 4 concludes with a new era opening for the galaxy, but not an era of complete peace. The new Federation, under General Valerius's leadership, the Federation was completely reformed. All manipulation by the Twilight Council was eliminated, exploited planets were liberated, and a more transparent political system was established. Valerius began to publicly disclose information about the corrosive demon, the precursors, and Lyra's sacrifice, educating the populace about the true threat. Remaining threats. The corrosive demon still exists. Although the infinity key is continuously active thanks to Lyra's control from the eternal core, weakening and sealing it, it remains a potential danger. The shadow spires are still there, and the transformed beings could reappear if the infinity key weakens or is deactivated. The Shadow Empire. The Shadow Empire has lost Malakor and is severely weakened. However, they still exist at the galaxy's rim, hidden and awaiting an opportunity for revenge. They remain a constant threat, a symbol of chaos and dark ambition. Jax, the Shadow Hero. Jax becomes a silent hero. He rejects all titles and power, choosing to continue his journey on the Night Falcon. He knows his mission is not over. He is the only one who can feel Lyra's presence, the only one who can connect with the eternal core to control the infinity key if necessary. He becomes a silent guardian of the galaxy, patrolling the borders, ready to face any threat that might emerge from the shadows. He continues to explore more mysteries of the precursors, seeking a permanent solution for the corrosive demon, or at least ensuring that Lyra's sacrifice was not in vain. He carries the burden of vengeance, not personal revenge, but vengeance for the innocent lives destroyed, for the truth concealed, and for the friends who fell to protect the galaxy. The story ends with Jax in the Night Falcon, drifting among the stars, his gaze distant, looking towards the horizon, where new mysteries and new battles await. He no longer has Lyra physically by his side, but she is still there, in his mind, in the eternal core, in every glimmer of the infinity key. A part of him, And a part of hope.